Good afternoon. It is Tuesday, February 16th. Just got off work a little bit ago. It is still winter out. It started to melt during the when the things were in sunlight today, though it is still like less than 10 degrees. So when not in direct sunlight, it's not melting. And also, it's supposed to snow again overnight tonight and into tomorrow, so, I mean, it's... well, there's a lot of snow out. But I'm inside, so that is okay. And it is Tuesday, so I'm like, Tuesday, movie day! So I'm so happy I've like managed to keep that up, and I want to keep keeping that up, because I like watching movies, and I need motivation to get myself to do it. Talking about it to you will help. Of course, I have a lot of movies. If there are particular requests, like, hey, I see you got that. What do you think about that movie? Bring it up. I got loads. And I was thinking over this past week, probably this time, maybe I should do because I have my things and I'm rating them. Like, let's do one of the better ones. Like, one of the ones that's going to be near the top of the scale. Like, Greatest Showman. Yeah. It's got to be up there. Or, likewise, Mary Poppins Returns going to be up there. Or I was thinking of some of the other ones that I just love and I'm confident are going to be Moulin Rouge, Labyrinth, all going to be some movies that I just absolutely love. And so I was thinking, maybe I should do one of those, help with that ranking things. Like, where do we get when we get near the top end of that? And then I sat down over break, and sitting here, I'm next to the movies that I've not put in the system at all, and I see this one, Frozen. I've never watched Frozen. I got Frozen at a garage sale like a year ago. And that'd be an interesting one to watch. Because of the theme. Because it's all frozen outside. However, that is a movie that I have never watched. And movies that I have never watched, before they can be put away, not only do I have to watch the movie, but also all the bonus features. So that's a lot more stuff on there to watch. Because there's just more on there. In fact, on my binders of movies in my closet, I have a separate binder, normal movie binders, separate binder for movies that I haven't watched, so that I can keep them separate, so that I know before this can go into the normal rotation, I have to watch all the bonus features. I have to have watched all the content. But I was like, it's so winter out. I mean, look at all that winter out. Gotta watch a winter movie, but if I don't want to have to, it's just a busy week. I don't want to have to think about all the bonus features. Well, what movies that I have seen would also be so winter? And then it hit me. Maybe I don't work on hitting the top end of the scale, but the low end. Because the low end of the scale is, I guess, 1 or 0? I don't know. But I'm never quite going to get down there unless I've really messed up. Because those would be movies so bad that I should not have been watching them. I should have been able to tell from the trailer. But there are still movies that I have, and ironically, perhaps like, or maybe don't remember because I haven't seen it in a long time. But, I mean, there are bad movies that are winter related. And I don't know, maybe it's not a bad movie. I've not seen it in years. I think I saw it in theaters. And then, once since. But I'm gonna watch The Day After Tomorrow. And that movie clawed its way up from my expectations. Unlike some of the ones that I watched that left me thinking, man, I want to watch that again right now. This didn't. But I would give it 4.8 out of 10. That's a lot better than I thought, especially from the beginning of the movie. It is a movie. We're reading the back of these. It is pulse-pounding action thriller. Global warming triggers the onset of a new ice age. As tornadoes flatten Los Angeles and a tidal wave engulfs New York City, the entire northern hemisphere begins to freeze solid. Now, climatologist Jack Hall, his son Sam, and a small band of survivors must ride out the growing superstorm and stay alive. It gets part of it. It's a story about a father who has trouble being there when his son needs him. And this time he sets his mind that he's not going to break another promise to his son. And all forces of fictional science fiction Mother Nature are working against him to keep him from keeping that promise. The actors, in general, are good. It's got Dennis Quaid. It's got Ian Holm. Oh, I didn't remember Ian Holm was in it. Great. Jake Gyllenhaal. It has... I'm not going to remember her name, but I know her as Christine Daae. And that box didn't have the cast on the back. This one looks like it does. I'm going to guess it's Emmy Rossum as the second build on there. Christine Daae. Whatever. But has some great acting, and the character moments are the parts I care about. Pacing is off, especially early on. Like, that movie, like, in my mind, as far as, because as I'm watching movies, I'm kind of now getting to play with where am I going to rank them. And in the first 10 or maybe 15 minutes of this movie, it was sitting at a 2. Because I'm sitting there and I'm watching the movie. And first off, the first, 3 minutes of the movie. 3 minutes of the movie are a pan over the Arctic wasteland. From out at sea to some broken ice into the frozen Arctic for 3 minutes. And it's all, of course, digital. At least from all appearances. Because they're rolling the opening credits real slow. Real nice and slow, just taking their time with that. That's before we see anything, is just going over the Arctic. 3 minutes. And then we get a little joke. We get a cool little action scene that's unusual, that introduces one of our main characters and some of our side characters. Great, that took a few minutes. And then we get a 4 or 5 minute boring exposition scene. Boring exposition scene. Then they prove that they know how to do exposition without being boring by showing a handful of shots of nature changing in different places. Giant chunks of ice falling through the sky in Japan or something. Things like that, where it's just showing this is off. Giving exposition without it just being one person doing a talk in front of a long... It was the point of the scene is this is boring. But they held on it. They didn't choose their good, 25 seconds of we need to say this and make it, poignant, and it's also to point out this is boring and then move on and deliver the rest of the exposition in better way. No, let's just do it all right here in a nice big boring scene at the beginning of our movie. Pacing was off. The movie probably could have trimmed 20 minutes, maybe 30. We could have trimmed some of the side characters. Yeah, they really felt like they needed to give, while Dennis Quaid and Jake Gyllenhaal are doing their scene, they needed, the wife, mother of the couple, needed to be heroic and relevant as well, so she's got to, we have to have this whole cancer patient story, which, yeah, it's sad, but it's such a little part that it doesn't affect anything. It doesn't actually go towards what the story is. They're not the characters that we've built up enough time with for us to get an emotional investment. We're just like, oh, that's sad. The amount of time that they spent trying to convince you that being a homeless person in New York when the weather is bad is a negative thing is really absurd. I think they could really just take that for granted, that we would assume bad weather in New York, probably bad for the homeless folk. I mean, the action looked cool. Obviously the science is way off, but I don't care. The wolves. What's the point of the wolves? Okay, so we got this whole movie, and the whole movie is about how nature, like how the weather is the bad guy. The weather is the villain in this movie. And there's this scene. They set this up. You got Jake Gyllenhaal's character. He's got this crush on this classmate. You want him to get her. He's nerdy. She's pretty and nerdy. Love the pretty nerdy girls. You want them to end up together because, he's got a crush on her. Yeah. So, working up all this thing back and forth, he finally gets the nerve to say something. She has, feelings. And the next day, oh no, because of an injury she's had, she needs penicillin or she will die. So before the freezingness can kill her, this is a quicker death. But there's this ship that floated through New York before New York froze over. So it's right outside the library where they're taking shelter. And there's got to be medical supplies on that ship, right? Well, it's dangerous to go out. Well, we're going to go out. And they go out onto the ship to try and find the medicine. And while they're there, let's get some food, because we have no food and we need food too. And so they're doing all this. And the wolves attack to add the drama. Now, yeah, that's a great place to have drama, except they've already set up the drama there. The Eye of the Storm, which they have early on established, can freeze fuel lines. That when, someone's, skin touches it, it freezes in a second, and they die. If they don't get back into shelter before the storm, the Eye of the Storm hits, they die. They don't know how close the Eye of the Storm is, but we as the audience do, because we have, we're cutting between scenes in different parts of the world, the setting. So we're watching the weather team, watching this come through. And they're getting it. And that's enough for them, for the point where they've gotten things and they realize, oh no, we must rush, we must get back into shelter, and are they going to make it? But no, you have wolves attack in the middle of it? That's not the villain of this movie. That's not the issue. It felt cheap. Also, it's some of the worst CG in the movie is the wolves, so it felt cheap. I was like, come on. Let's let the weather do its thing. Either you've decided the weather is a good enough villain to base your movie on it, or you haven't. And clearly you have, and now you're undermining that. So, I've complained a fair bit. But I like the romance story between the characters there. And as they're getting to know each other and they're talking, she's like, she's talking to Sam. He's like, what's your best vacation? He says this thing, he went to a trip, one of his dad's, because his dad goes to Antarctic for ice samples and such. He went on one of the trips with him. The ship broke down, and they were just stranded in terrible weather for 10 days. And she's like, that sounds terrible. And he's like, and it was just 10 days of time with my dad. Because the whole thing, and why I say the plot is not about the weather. The weather's the villain. The plot is about a father and son who need a better relationship. And that hits home, and as they act it, I believe it. And it makes the feels. More of that, less of this whole action thing. You do get plenty of political comedy. En masse, Americans are illegally crossing the Mexican border into Mexico, fleeing south away from the new ice age. Ha ha ha. 'Tis funny. So yeah, they poke fun at politics. 2004. What a simpler time it was. So I was still in high school when this came out. And I saw it in theaters, and I liked it enough to buy it. But it's got 2 audio commentaries. And that was right at a time I loved audio commentaries. So I probably liked the movie a bit. And to see, let's see how that was made. Because that's got a lot of interesting stuff as far as filmmaking in it. And that was me before going off to film school. That was me at a stage in life where I was thinking, I like learning about this. So that may have had, there are movies I bought as much for the bonus features as for the movie. And as I'm going through them, I'm not really watching the bonus features, but I might for some. I might do separate reviews of bonus features on movies as if they're a movie themselves on some. Who knows? But it was a movie. If you get past the pacing issues and some of just the excessive bits, they went a bit beyond what their story was. It needed to be tightened up quite a bit. The acting was good. The characters, at least the main characters I cared about, although they gave a lot of attention to some characters that I didn't care about. They didn't tie up some stories. And some that really hurt. There's one character that they go back and forth of, do we want you to care about this guy or not? And just before they got stuck in this library, he needed to get down to Philadelphia, I think, where his brother was in a boarding school to pick him up. He needed to make that journey. And he couldn't make it. Later on, we have our father and his Arctic team coming up to rescue the son, going through Philadelphia, buried under snow and ice, on top of buildings. Did that brother die? Because most likely he did. But they don't go over that. That's an emotional beat that you're just left wondering, wait, what happened there? Why did we spend so much time developing that emotional beat just for it to be dropped? If you're gonna... Maybe there was a resolution and that scene got cut. But for some reason they didn't cut the emotional beats leading up to it. I don't know. Little things like that. There's lots of things that just needed to be trimmed more. Still, it did make me feel, so it had that at least. That's what, 16, 17-year-old movie? If you have recollections of watching The Day After Tomorrow, let me know what you thought of it and how long it's been since you've seen it. Because admittedly, in my mind, I remembered it being worse than it was. Because I remembered a lot more of the issues, which is, I guess, what I talked about, and not less of that part of the characterization that makes me feel. So, it was better than I thought, but still had the issues. I don't know. That's it for today. Basically just talk about the movies I watch on movie day. I do like movie day. I look forward to movie day throughout the week. And that's cool. Because last year there was no movie day. Thank you for joining me and join me as my journey continues.